Hello YouTubers, it's been a while since I put up a new video, so I figured it's time for a new video. This was a recent eBay purchase. I finally got one of these. This was actually a second chance offer. I had originally bid and lost this auction for this tuner, and the highest bidder, who had zero feedback according to the bid list, apparently didn't pay up, so the owner sent me an offer and I took it. It is a Marantz FM AM stereo receiver model SR-940, and as you can see, this is an AM stereo tuner. It's a bit quirky though compared to some of the tuners I've worked with. The controls are a bit odd, as they say, and if you haven't noticed already, one odd thing about it is that it uses 24-hour time, which is very rarely used here in the United States, but that's what this tuner does for its time, as opposed to the standard AM and PM display. And the first thing that kind of had me confused when I took this out of the box is, well, the power button doesn't actually turn the receiver on. And I later found out that you have to hit one of the input buttons to turn it on. It's a bit odd, but well, I guess it's logical to somebody, at least someone in Marantz's corporate headquarters at the time. This is an early digital tuner, enough that they use a fancy term for calling it CompuTuner. As you can see, the preset buttons are there. This receiver has a built-in timer. You can set it to turn on a certain time of the day. And it also has a sleep timer, so you can have it automatically turn off after a set period of time. Pretty straightforward otherwise. You have your bass treble controls, balance, and I've noticed with these receivers, these little pieces, as you can see, come right off. They tend to get lost, so it was nice to get all three of the covers for the sliders with this auction. Another interesting thing I noticed about this, if you haven't noticed it already, is that you could store volume presets in memory. I can honestly say I've never really seen that in a tuner before, but it kind of makes up for something else that's missing, namely a mute control. Just set one of the presets to 0 and you have an instant mute control. This receiver also comes with a remote that is equally bizarre. As you can see, it also does not have a power on button, at least in a traditional sense. You can only power it on in AM or FM mode. And yeah, you could also control the preset volumes along with straight volume control and direct access to your presets. Pushing one of these buttons when the receiver is off will also turn it on and set it to that preset. So, but one thing that's missing is no button to switch it to the CD or phono input. Yeah. Anyway, my first impressions of this unit is it's pretty gosh darned loud. It's 100 watts per channel at 8 ohms. My old receiver was only 50 watts per channel at 8 ohms. And I have these pretty nice EPI 250 speakers, which can take quite a bit of power. And the old receiver, I was kind of pushing it. Those EPI speakers are actually 4 ohm impedance as opposed to 8 ohm, and this receiver seems to handle them much better compared to the old Pioneer VSX 2000 receiver I had up here. And I have not been able to test the AM stereo on this because the local AM stereo station is too far away from me to actually pick up in stereo. That would be WCTC. I'm sure you've seen that example recordings of that channel from the Westlife in the past. For those wondering, no, this does not tune the expanded band. It only goes to 610 kilohertz. No, nothing above that. No 1700 kilohertz. And another other thing is, I think the tuner needs to be aligned because I cannot get any FM stereo stations despite having a strong signal. I get mono, but it won't lock onto the FM. stereo pilot. Well, I guess I'm rambling, but well, here's an example of a preset. Let's use that volume. We don't want the copyright police to get us. As you can see, it lights up there. Got a nice little signal strength gauge. And this gauge over here is for volume level. I had originally thought it was a VU meter of some sort, but no, it tells you how loud you have it set to. Not quite as many blinking lights as the Sansui SX-1130, but it actually looks nice, and for the first time in about 13 years, I finally have all black components set up down here. One thing I did notice were some design differences between this tuner and the more commonly available silver version. If you notice focus. The silver version uses an older style label with a nice fancy script SR-940, but this one, which I think probably came out in '87 because they made these from '84 to '87, has a more modern, simpler text to it as opposed to the older unit. And you don't see these black ones too often, which I guess they didn't make too many, and I guess they're phasing it out. So, and of course, another thing I noticed difference is that it has this fancy remote sensor logo on it as opposed to the old one that just says remote control. So, well, that's all. I mean, in terms of audio quality, I have to say it does sound nicer than the old Pioneer. The old Pioneer kind of had a shrill coloring to the audio. I guess it's the best way to explain it. It wasn't really easy on the ears, especially compared to the older transistor amplifiers I used to have. This amp was a lot cleaner sounding, and of course it delivers a lot more power to the speakers. Let's see, is there anything else I could talk about with this amplifier based on my hours worth of use? Oh, it has dual tape inputs that are, instead of being directly controlled by input buttons, you have a little button down here to select between the tape decks, and you have to push the tape monitor button to listen to a tape. Like I said, it's a little different, but... Oh, another thing is this amp actually has a battery backup. It takes 4 AA's, which I pulled out because for some silly reason the battery backup compartment is on the bottom of the amplifier. And as you can see, I'm not going to go under there very often because I had to take all this stuff off, lift up the amplifier, which is quite heavy, and change the batteries. And one thing I noticed is that the batteries are actually Japanese. They're national brand, which is a sub-brand of Panasonic. And I noticed that the remote also had national brand batteries. I'm thinking maybe these were the original batteries that somehow didn't leak after 25 years. I don't know, but it's a little weird to have 2 sets of Japanese batteries. And, well, the AAAs that were on the remote were starting to leak, and they were kind of weak. They actually still work. The ones for the backup on the stereo was completely flat. But, well, that's all for now, and see you next time. Okay, I'm back already. I figured you guys are probably going to ask for an audio example, a demonstration. Yeah, I know. So let's find some music that the copyright police isn't going to go after me for. Some nice tunes off mp3.com, which is no longer with us, sadly. And let's abuse the speakers. As you could already figure out, I don't think the neighbors are really gonna like me. Well, anyway, until next time, Sanjay Road Fan signing off.